And then a pyro came. What's up, peeps? How's it going? Dave here. Today's episode is going to be more of a strategy guide for you guys. I'm going to be talking through how I like to play as an engineer. For this episode we're going to be looking at Frontier in defense, and I'm going to be walking through my sentry positioning for each of the control points. The way I'm going to try and approach this is to actually watch myself back and commentate on what I'm doing, because obviously in the spare of the moment you're doing things without even realising it. So after I've done this, I'll actually move on and try and make this into a whole series. First off by looking at all the payload maps as an engineer in defence, and then we'll see where we go from there. So in the background here you can see me starting to set up on the first point. This is pretty much the main reason I wanted to make this video. I feel like I've found a pretty cool place up in these battlements, which I don't see a lot of other people using. So what I tried to do is get the sentry right in that corner here and basically run back down these stairs to grab metal from this little walkway through here. Now this is probably the hardest thing about setting up here, is just being able to do it in time before you get your first wave of people coming. There's not a lot of metal around here, so it's a bit laborious having to run backwards and forwards. But once you're set up, it's a really decent spot. As you can see, I've got the dispenser in that other corner, just behind this kind of like gas cylinder thing. And then once I've got these two set up, I eventually get a telly up. As you can see, I'm kind of set up now. What I tend to do now is kind of go around this corner, keep peeking my head out, and just constantly trying to basically make sure that if anyone's coming up those stairs, they're as uncomfortable as possible, and I'm distracting them and just kind of causing them hassle. That way they don't get a chance to properly kind of see that there's a sentry base up here and attack it very well. You can see, like, they're coming around this corner. They do get a couple of hits on it, but usually you can take anyone out who does come up here. See here, I'm getting like attacked from like multiple angles, but if I just hassle them, let my sentry do most of the work, it tends to work out pretty well. It also really helps if you've got at least one or two other teammates up here. I think that goes for any position you choose. There's a sneaky spy. So here I'm just poking my head out again. There's a scout coming, just cause him some hassle. If anyone tries to go the other way, like jump off that balcony to the left, basically they haven't really got much of a chance to react in time. The sentry's going to take them down, so I'm not so worried about that. It's more this direction. Finally got the telly up now, so that should bring in some more reinforcements. Brought a heavy up here with me now, which is really cool. I'm just upgrading the telly as well. think we actually end up winning this round here, so I'll show you parts of other games for the other points. I think a lot of my team are now kind of up here supporting me, so it feels like we kind of got it covered. So that was the first point, and yeah, it tends to work really well for me. As long as you can get set up in time and you're not completely overwhelmed straight away, then it's a really decent spot. So this is the second place I like to set up. We're in a different game now and we're getting pretty battered, so I don't actually last very long here, but hopefully it gives you enough time to see kind of the potential of setting up here. And you know, in the past I have been able to well, hopefully have a huge impact on the game by setting up here. So what I like to do is I run backwards and forwards to grab these pieces of metal, as you can see, and I like to set up my sentry just on this little corner here. That way it kind of looks right over to the cart from like a good distance away, and it also covers this entrance to the left. What I use is the same kind of tactic here, is where I'm constantly looking around this corner. There's a pyro there, I give him some hassle, make sure he's, you know, not comfortable enough to be able to, you know, destroy my sentry. And if anyone pushes the cart, the train at the very far right, as you can see here, it's really good with dealing with them because it's such a long range. You know, only a soldier perhaps is going to get a decent shot at the sentry. So as you can see, I actually die there. I was getting a bit overwhelmed, but it can be, I promise you, an awesome spot. Probably equally as awesome as the first spot if you know, if all goes well. So at this part of the map, if I've got time, I like to just go ahead and throw down a sentry pretty much anywhere on this hill. I never have a huge amount of luck around here. You'd think it'd be a decent choke point. I don't know if maybe there's some better spots out there I'm not aware of. I've tried, but on, you know, on that shelf on the right, yeah, also to the left behind me. But I find just, you know, sometimes just shoving a sentry down right in the slap bang in the middle can do just as good a job. So now I'm pretty much set up here. I'd probably either, depending on how the match is going, either push forward and just sort of hassle the enemy, or head back a bit and set up in a position which I think has slightly more potential. Now this is a pretty cool choke point. There's 2 or 3 spots you can probably set up around here. I tend to favour that corner where you can't really, you know, get sniped out of the little doorway, and as long as you can get a teleporter up pretty quickly, and you've got, you know, your team backing you up, you can actually, you know, have a decent effect on the game by setting up here. So again, I've got a matey setting up with me, which is pretty cool. If you can get a couple of sentries up here, that's awesome. Running down, hassling these people, making sure they don't get a chance to, you know, properly set up sticky bombs on my sentry. I'm being a bit rubbish at getting up that hill apparently, and I think eventually I'll put down a telly there. And my team's starting to learn that, you know, there's a dispenser around that corner, which is really cool. So for the very last control point on Frontier, there's a few positions I like to try and use, just, you know, to mix it up and have a bit of fun. Obviously there's the huge balcony at the very back that's really popular and does, you know, is an awesome place to set up. But I thought I'd show you a couple of more unusual ones like this one you're seeing here. This spot, it looks over the cart in, you know, if they push it far enough. And it kind of covers this little room and this kind of entrance to the left. And this second one I'm showing you now is similar. It's just a little bit more out in the open, just in this corner. And, you know, as soon as the enemy is aware that it's there, it's obviously completely vulnerable. But it's kind of more about the element of surprise, because, you know, very few people build there. What I tend to do on this last point though is actually just go with the mini-sentry, which can be a lot of fun, and just run around causing as much mayhem as possible, throwing down mini-sentries everywhere and being really aggressive, which you can kind of see me doing here in the background in a few clips. So I'll use some of the similar positions, like, you know, that one I saw earlier here. Just keep moving, making sure that, you know, as soon as my sentry's gone down, I put another one up. And I think in some situations this kind of technique can actually be equally as effective as a really good third level sentry spot. That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.
Quick as a hiccup, ain't ya?